Good morning. This is Angela Coulter bringing you Living the Shift. I am, it's funny. I'm trying to figure out where to start, but one of the themes that has been going on for the past couple of weeks is that a lot of people that I speak to are coming to a place where they're realizing maybe part of what it is they came in for, right? Or their guidance is telling them what it is they've come here for. And they become overwhelmed. And typically that's an egoic reaction of, who am I, right? Or why me? And I'll tell you, I was guided to talk about this today because it has been coming up a lot with clients and friends and people I know who are faced with stepping into the next big step that they've set out for themselves. And the message for many is go big or go home, go big because you are home, however you want to look at it. So, I share my personal experience when I first had what I call my grand awakening. And that was actually almost exactly 9 years ago now, because it was like a week before Thanksgiving. I started going and, I was purposely meditating and getting all kinds of messages and talking to what people consider guides. I just call journey companions. And I was given this, I saw like this big picture of what it is I came here to do. And it was nothing along the lines, by the way, of anything I would have ever imagined. I was not even in this work. I wasn't doing anything like this. It was something that was, I had my grand awakening in 2009, but I've had all these things, these abilities, at the surface for most of my life. I just thought of them as like a dog and pony show, just a part of, I guess, a natural life. So anyhow, when I saw like some really big picture things, I said, yeah, I always joke when I tell the story and say, well, yeah, I think maybe you might mean the person up the block. I'm not sure that you're talking to the right person, And I proceeded. My understanding, my guidance was to do this spiritual work that I do now, which is, well, essentially what it gets down to is, helping people step into their own power and find their bliss, or remember their bliss, so that we have more people on the playground at this really high vibration, kind of thing. And I enjoy that. I do it. I really enjoy that. So what started, so I started doing this. I really fought it. So it took me a couple of years. And I had another successful business in a different field, and I kept on getting guidance to do this. And I was getting pushed harder and harder, and literally everything started shutting down. Everything in my other business would just like go freakishly wrong for no apparent reason. And I couldn't get stuff done. It was just delay after delay. I couldn't get paid. It was just like all this bizarre stuff. So I finally called Uncle, and I started doing this work. And it was probably, it wasn't even a year I was in this full time when the practice of Trinity energy progression came into me. And I don't really talk about that much here because it's got its whole, organization of its own and a page of its own, whatever. However, the point is, I was doing this full time as a living for less than a year when the practice came into me, when I was shown and understood things at this whole different level. And yes, I had a whole bunch of training and a bunch of different modalities and practice and stuff like that. And this was so big and so different. And my understanding was, coming in to teach it to help everyone accelerate their shifting to a place of self-realization in this really accelerated pace. And the first question, that was overwhelming me in the beginning was, why me? Right. And that's what many are asking themselves right now. Like, as we get clearer in guidance, we get clearer in what it is that we're here, like we start seeing or getting ideas of what it is we're here to do. Right. And if it seems really big, right, that's an ego term. The ego says, well, why me? Who am I to do this? I asked that when Trinity came into me, like, who am I to do this? And the answer was, who are you not to? You know? And it's funny because I've had that question in conversation with a lot of people in the past week, people. And what's really interesting is, actually not just this past week, this past several months, what's really interesting is that, I'm coming to this next like sort of cliff, and there are all these cliffs, you think that it gets easier, but the cliffs just get bigger. So we put one thing out for ourselves, and then we put another bigger thing out. So I just know not to ask why me anymore, because I just know that I can do it, right? And what I tell people, because right now, like, we're getting faced, like I was saying, with a lot of big steps, right? And the why me question comes up, and I'm like, well, actually, even a bigger question is, who am I to do that? Because I remember asking that, who am I to do this? Like, who am I? And again, the answer was, who are you not to? And so if you look at this, and it was funny, I was down in Wilmington, North Carolina yesterday morning at the beach right after sunrise and doing a nice meditation. And that question was just echoing in my head, because there have been things that I'm known to do, that I will do, right? That are really big, and I've successfully found ways to procrastinate doing it, to limit myself from doing them, and things like that. And I know people say, oh, well, what do you mean you're doing this? And and it's like, well, the important part is this. When we live from this place, that we remember that we're divine and we're part of the divine consciousness. And if we recognize that we are the divine embodied in this perfect form for what it is that we are here to do, right? Not only to do, but to learn, to experience, and I always, like, lately I've been using the term, to play your full note as part of the symphony of completion, of wholeness, of the whole picture, not just on Earth and multidimensionally across the multiverse. And if it were not a perfect note, it would not be, we wouldn't be embodying ourselves as we are, right? So when we start looking at it that way, I talk a lot about, like, well, to say we're not perfect is actually giving ourselves lack, right? And I see that a lot, like, oh, well, I'll never be perfect, and so I just accept where I am. But the key is to remember we're always perfect, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be going through what we're doing, even if it feels crappy, right? So what's really important is to remember this. So if I set myself up to do this, right, because if we have created this on our journey, if we have created the possibility and the potential on our journey, then we can, of course, accomplish it. Well, we can accomplish anything. We're the divine, right? So when we start to accept that we're infinitely capable and have infinite potential, right? That's where we can start to uncover really, truly what it is we came here to do, right? Our purpose. And that's like the big topic that a lot of people have in spiritual circles, like, what's my purpose? And the belief is, that I must serve. And actually, if you step back, here's the thing. So first, I want to clarify my understanding, right? So one is that whatever it is we truly came here to do, when we align ourselves with that, when we align ourselves with our highest purpose for what we came here to complete and attain, and like all possibility, recognize that it will not be suffering, because it doesn't make any sense. We would not do anything as the divine that would not be, serving as like the big perfect note. And as that perfect note, we sing, right? So when you think about, like, when we sing, what do? We sing with joy. We don't sing with, like, suffering, right? We sing with joy and expansion. And so when we suffer, that's all ego, right? So it's all separation based, this is my understanding. It's all separation based energies. And it keeps us down in, it prevents us from going there, because when we suffer, then we stop ourselves, we distract ourselves with mourning and grief and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that that's not bad. It's just good to see it for what it is. The more we allow ourselves, happiness and unity and wholeness, the more we actually allow ourselves to embody our happiness and bliss. And that right there, that's our divine purpose. Our divine purpose is to remember the spark of unconditional love that we truly are. And to do that, right? Think about vibrationally. If you're suffering, you don't get to a place of unconditional love, right? You just don't. But when you play and you're having fun and you're expansive and in a place of like joy, that's where you are emanating this amazingly high vibration. So when we allow ourselves to do that unapologetically, right, that's when we actually serve this entire planet, all of the dimensions here, as well as the whole multiverse. Because it's when we do that is when we become that full wholeness of potential of that note that we came here to be, right? As this, embodiment, as this individual, this soul family, and it just goes concentrically out. So our purpose will always bring us bliss when we get out of our own way. That's a really key term, getting out of our own way. Getting out of our own way is all of the things that the ego says that in separation and energies and emotions that limit us or cause us to stop ourselves from stepping into that bliss, because it'll say, but what about this? But this, but we'll be judged, but we'll be called selfish, or fear, I'll be hurt, I'll be exiled, I'll be this. And it's so interesting. And we stop ourselves. So like, oh, you know what? Because I find more, I'm valued by the roles that I play as a mother, as a father, as a spouse, or whatever, as a kid. Like, so I've got to do this first. And, we do that all the time. I got to do this first. I'll do this after the kids grow up. I'll go do this after this something, after my parents die. I'll do this after I divorce or whatever, or after I find the love of my life. So the key is not to wait, right? Not to allow, and part of it is fear, right? Because then it goes back down to this. There's doubt about what if, like, who am I to do this? Who am I to do this big, huge thing that I set myself up to come here to do? Because by the way, as far as I can see, most people, many who've come in to really engage in this community and do this kind of, work, and actually not even just do this kind of work, because it doesn't even matter what you're doing if you do it with consciousness and unity and unconditional love and observance, right? And it's like, so to come and fulfill your note, it's to get all of the buts out of the way, right? There's somebody I knew once who used to say, do these buts make, these buts make, does my ego make this butt look big? That's it. Does my ego make this butt look big or something like that? It's funny. So all the buts are, I've got to wait for this, or I can't do this because of this, or I have this physical limitation, or I'm, chronically ill. And it's time to shift our perspective around to say, okay, what if we focused on all we focused on is allowing ourselves to attain the remembrance of that embodiment of our bliss and unconditional love. If that's our focus, right? And we allow ourselves to say, I'm worthy of this. I'm worthy. I'm able to. I remember how to. I allow myself to. And then get out of our, that the key is then for us to get out of our own way. So when we get out of our own way, then we can open up the paths that then, because a lot of times people say, well, I know I have a bigger purpose and I don't know what that is. I don't know what my bliss is. And I'm like, because we're so out of the practice of allowing ourselves to live that bliss, to live in happiness, because we believe sacrifice and martyrdom and, sacrificing ourselves to roles and everything else. We believe often that is what, is important, when the real important part is to remember that expression of joy because everything, I promise you, everything falls into place when you allow that. And there are so many layers to it, right? So many sit and go, well, I don't know how to do this. And so I'm like, so then ask for you to show yourself, ask for your higher self to show you one step at a time what to do, and then trust it, and ask for, so I have a friend who asks for, a blaring neon sign, like basically the message to be really clear of the next step. But the key is then to commit to actually listening and paying attention, because the messages come from all over the place. But anyhow, so ultimately that's part of the game. It's not attaining enlightenment. It's not attaining, ascension. It's remembering it. Remembering we're already there. And to do that is really to live in that bliss. And that's part of really our purpose, so that we can hold that in everybody else's vibration around us. Everybody else is motivated to do so for themselves as well. So, I was sitting at the beach, and I was yesterday morning, and I was, watching the sun shortly after sunrise. And it was just so absolutely always breathtaking. I just love the ocean. And I just kept on hearing this echo in my head. Because when we say, who are we? Who am I to do this? Who are we to do this? Really, the question is to ask ourselves, who are we not to do this? Who am I not to do this? If I don't do what I came here to do, then why would I have done it? Why would I have set up to, then I'm probably probably have to come back and do it again. B, until I do fill it out, and our timelines are short right now, is my understanding. And so, but B, if every piece and speck of this is divine, as we are, then who are we to not fulfill our note, right? Because the divine knows nothing but. And even if you think you're not, you absolutely, you do. But the thing is to fill it as full and as vibrant. And that's the goal for us, to really hit that chord of resonance that actually helps to shift everything, or helps us all to shift our focus of consciousness of everything into this new world, as people call it. It's really already existing. It's just for us to focus our consciousness there. So, so how do we do that? And when you think about it, it's like, well, so when you get these things, and I had like all of a sudden, well, like I'm getting that I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to start this great thing, and it's so huge, and it's, and I'm so used to playing small, and and it's like, right. And now we're upping our game tremendously in a very short period of time, according to the earth timelines, because, time is just a construct, right? So, so when we sit there and we think, because the ego shrinks away, because the ego is used to living in lack, right? And it's not that, like, again, there's no judgment on the ego. Its job, as I understand it, has been the exploration of separation and identity, which is a separate, representation. And so we're so used to thinking from separation and lack, especially here, right? Embodied here, when we are in the part of us that's embodied here, that it's like we're so used to thinking in lack and working sort of backwards from the perception of not, so that when we actually start getting clear guidance, and guidance is do this, and this is what's next, that's when the ego will shrink back. So you might ask me, so if what we came here to do will bring me bliss, right? Will not bring me bliss, allow me to embody my bliss as the divine, why would I shrink back from it? Why would I be afraid of it? Why would it feel hard? And because in the beginning, sometimes it is. For me, it was me having to kick myself in the butt a bunch of times. My higher self saying, it's time to do this. It's time to do this. It's time to do this. Get off your butt, which is funny. Get off your butt, quote unquote, right? Stop butting and just go and do it, right? And good thing, we have different levels of ourselves to sort of kick ourselves, in the butt. If you want to talk about, higher consciousness or divine, it's all the same kind of thing, right? And it's a lot of times it's uncomfortable because if we're pulling ourselves from one completely, mind-oriented, separation-based and motivated existence and a set of goals, right? I'm just sort of saying this and trying to get the words together. If we're used to living that way and our higher guidance is like, yep, it's time to pick us up and move you over here and completely live in a different way. And by the way, to do this, you will actually embody your bliss. Like, and that's not what comes through in the guidance, but that's really the implication. This, or even this step, if you even do this, so it's funny, as big as we might believe, a lot of times it's just one big step. Because here's the thing. First, it was like getting into this, doing this kind of work full time. Like that was the push for myself. Then it was the bringing in Trinity Energy Progression. And now for the past year, it's been like, nah, it's time to do more, way more. And so now, but now here's the thing. I've done it a number of times over these 9 years, right? I've done it over my life and I've not recognized it until now. But as we progress, it becomes easier because then you trust more. In the beginning, it's really challenging because if the higher self is telling you to do something or you're getting guidance to do something, and it's really out of character for you, very uncomfortable because it takes you out of your comfort zone, that's what feels hard. And that's really from the ego, right? So it's because it wants to stay in that comfort box. That's what the ego does. It wants to say, a lot of people say it tries to keep us safe. It actually tries to keep us in comfort, what we call comfort, which sometimes is limiting. We got to kick ourselves out. And so that's what's happening a lot right now. And to do that, one might perceive, well, I have to change a whole lot of stuff to do this, to allow myself to do this. And that's even scarier because that takes me out of even more of a comfort zone, which is why it's scary to many, right? Which is the hesitation. Like, okay. And then there's these levels of, okay, I'll do this and I'll do all this, but I won't let go of this. Like that's the whisper in the back of our heads. Like I won't let go of this. My kind of life, in some cases, my marriage, my family, or the way my family works, or, this role in the way I've developed it for myself. And even it's a lot of times not even conscious. Like, yeah, I can do all this stuff and then I can tell myself I did a good job, but then, there's even more. Right. And that's what's going on a lot right now. So there are all these steps, like, so some are just like, I don't even know where to start. And then I say, well, then ask, give me real clear neon sign, conscious clarity on the next step. And I promise the thing is to commit to listening and paying attention and taking the step when it's presented to you. That's the first step, like the first thing to do. Because if you do it one step at a time, it becomes not so overwhelming. Sometimes you do get kicked and you just like get pushed into a completely new like paradigm, right? That's happening to a lot of people now too. And that's usually because the higher self has been saying for a long time, hey, it's time to do this. This is really what we came here to do. And it's like, oh, well, I'll just do this way. That's what I tried at the beginning. That didn't work. I'll just do this on the side, or I'll do this as a hobby. And the higher self is like, no, there's so much more, right? And like I said, like even now, and I've been doing this full time for 8 years, it's like, yeah, now it's time to do more. No more pussyfooting, which I have, and now I'm ready to commit and move full force. But at the ocean, it's sort of to close up the thought. The ocean yesterday morning, it was like I was hearing that echoing because I've been saying it to a lot of people I've been working with over this past week, actually the past several months with other friends of mine, saying it to myself. And I was sitting at the ocean and, I just love the power of the water and, the sun at sunrise and, the freedom of just this open beach and the birds and the sand and everything. And it was sort of like, well, who are you not to, right? Don't go 95%, go 100%. Who are you not to do that? You're divine. There's no nots. And actually, when you look at, say, when we talk law of attraction, verbiage and stuff like that, part of the lesson and conscious speaking, conscious verbalizations is taking out knots and no's because the universe doesn't hear them because they don't really exist. Anything in that is done in separation and is part of the illusion. It's all about the unity and not how do I not do this, but how do I do this? So actually, when you say, who am I to not do this? It's really, who am I to do this? Like, I am this divine being to do it. And that's the answer. Because if you knew you could not fail, what would you do? Because you really can't if you allow yourself. So there's a lot to, and it's like this. What if the drops of water, and I look at everything as part of consciousness. So what if the drops of water did not become their perfect note, right? Then they couldn't make the ocean, right? And the ocean, what if the ocean refused to be what it is as part of its perfect divine note here on this planet, right? Then we wouldn't have water. We wouldn't have the mountains and the geography and the weather. I mean, and what if the grain of sand refused to be the grain of sand instead of, what it is embodied or created as part of the divine consciousness to be? What if the sun refused to be the energy provider to the thing that provides energy that has sparked the creation and existence of the solar system? So, things like that. And if you start thinking of all that interconnectedness, then who are you not to do this? I am a spark of the divine, and I'm here to fulfill that note in the symphony. And the more I step up to allow my full emanation, again, unapologetically, in a way that I am in comfort and acceptance and trusting and knowing that I am that, and everything else and everyone else around me is too. It's not a hierarchy. It's all of us. When we start to live that way and honor each other's paths as perfect and honor each other as divine and infinite, then we stop needing to or giving ourselves the distractions and excuses to not live up to our own note. So food for thought for today and this week. And so, the home play is, ask yourself, what am I doing to allow myself to embody my bliss? And it's not other people. It can't be my kids or my spouse or my family or anything like that. It's like, where am I able to fully be blissful? And just, even if you don't know that, find something, just start playing with some new things. That's what I tell you all the time. Things that you sort of like to do or are drawn to. Nothing is a waste, because one thing will lead to another in serendipity and synchronicity. So absolutely just trust and see where it sort of, flows and takes you. But the thing is to take that first step. Do something different. Instead of complaining or feeling like you have to fight through something in your own life that you just keep on cycling around with over and over again, just try something different, even if it seems bizarre, and take one step at a time and meditate and learn to focus on your guidance and truly be able to discern that over higher guidance versus ego, which is, part of what we teach in Trinity Energy Progression, by the way, just as a side. But there are many ways to do that. It's just different flavors of ice cream. But the thing is to begin to trust. You have the answers. You set yourself up. If you set yourself up for something really huge, then of course you can do it, because it's already done. You just got to allow it to manifest into this reality. So baby steps, step at a time, live in gratitude. It's a great day. Today is, the Thanksgiving Day in the United States. So a great day to have gratitude for yourself and for the journey and embodiment of others and everything around you for this perfect symphony. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great one. This is Angela Coulter with Living the Shift. Bye.